There's a type of compulsion that I see a lot of people struggle with, and there isn't that many people talking about it in the OCD space. And I think it needs more recognition because I do think a lot of people struggle with it and don't actually realize that they're doing it. And sometimes it can come across as reassurance seeking when actually that isn't the intention behind the behavior. And that behavior or compulsion is that of venting. So, do you ever feel like your anxiety is building up so much and it just builds up and up and up, and you feel as though if you don't let it out, you'll just explode or lose control and go crazy, and you absolutely have to tell someone, like it's all too much to keep inside? When we're dealing with OCD, our obsessive worries, whether that is some intrusive thoughts, whether that is a physical sensation that causes us to feel anxious and we don't like it, that urge to vent about this experience can feel like the only way to feel better in the moment. It's like we're under pressure, and letting those worries out is a quick release. We've bottled it all up for so long, we're trying to bulldoze our way through recovery, and we feel as though, oh, I just can't take it anymore, I just need a release of all this pressure. But here's the thing. Every time we vent, we're unintentionally training ourselves to believe that these worries or these obsessions are too big to handle on our own, and that we need to release them or get rid of them or get them out of our body to feel okay. It's a bit like a balloon that's been blown up. Each time we vent, we let out a little bit of air, and that pressure drops just enough to feel a little bit of relief. But here's the catch. Venting doesn't actually reduce the overall tension. Actually, what it does is every time we find ourselves venting to someone, whether that is friends, family, other loved ones that are trying to support us, every time we engage in this behaviour of getting it all out and I need to release it out of me, what we're doing is we are teaching ourselves that these feelings are too much and that we can't cope. So the pressure builds right back up, and soon we're back to feeling like we need to let it all out again. Now, I'm not saying you should never talk to people around you about what you're going through. Anxiety and OCD recovery is really, really difficult, and it can feel quite isolating and lonely. And it's really important and really helpful to have a nice support network around you. However, the type of support that you get from these people around you is also really important. We don't want them to become sort of like a co-compulsion on your recovery journey. It's important that you do allow time and almost give yourself the space and engage in some self-compassion to acknowledge that what you're going through is really, really difficult. However, just be careful of your intention behind why you're doing this. We don't want to engage in this sort of self-reflection or talking about what we're going through as a way to try and get rid of anxiety. Venting feels like it helps because it gives us relief in the moment. But if we're always doing it, we're staying caught in this loop, reinforcing that these thoughts are threats and we have to try and fix them or manage them. Real progress and real recovery comes from showing ourselves that we can feel that pressure and we can allow those feelings of anxiety just rise up and peak, and that we can tolerate it and they will start to drop as long as we leave them alone and let time pass. And we can feel that pressure without always needing to react to it. Now, it's okay to speak to people about how hard this is. That's absolutely fine. I'm not to vilify that. However, just be careful of why you are speaking to these people. Is it something that I'm choosing to do thoughtfully because I feel like I need a bit of space to talk about how hard this is? Or does it feel like it's a behaviour that's really urgent that I need to do right now because I feel like a pressure cooker that has built up and built up and built up, and if I don't blurt it out, I feel like I'm about to explode? So the next time you feel the urge to vent to people, just try and pause and remind yourself, just because anxiety feels intense doesn't mean that you have to let it out right away. By resisting that urge to vent and holding back, even just for a moment, you start to see and show yourself that it doesn't build up forever and it doesn't need to be released to be manageable, and that we can cope even without venting. And over time, you'll feel more comfortable letting those feelings sit without having to vent. And that's where you start to feel a real shift, and recovery and brain rewiring can take place.